All right, so we're still unit 6 and slope from a graph. So before we get started with slope from a graph, let's talk about what slope is. All right. So we have slope. Slope is the change in x or the change in y over the change in x. We've talked about this a little bit. It's also referred to as, let me draw this arrow. It's also referred to, you'll hear people say rise over run. It's rise over run. And why is it rise over run? Because you're changing y, your y-axis is vertical, so it's like we're rising, okay? You're going up and down. It's like the sun rises and it sets, so rise, and then the x-axis is run. It's like you're running on the floor, like I just said in the last lesson. You're running, okay? So we always start with the y, and then we go to the x. So you rise, if you want to draw a vertical line here, over your run, okay? So you're changing y, you're changing x, rise over run, all right? Here's the equation for slope. I'm just going to show you the equation. We're not going to use it today, but I want to show it to you. So your slope equation is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, obviously, we would use the equation when we have 2 points, okay? Because we have an x and a y and an x and a y, so we have 2 different points there, all right? So what we're going to do with slope is we're going to do a couple of examples to show how to find slope from a graph, all right? And all we're doing here is we're just counting. That's basically all we're doing is counting, okay? So slope from a graph. What we're going to do is 2 examples. So all I want you to do is I want you to sketch this first graph. It don't have to be perfect. It can just go, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just be 5 each way, all right? And then we're going to kind of go through our steps here. So I'll write slope up here is rise over run. So I'll make rise as blue over, and we'll make our run this pink color. So our first step here, okay, we want to identify the points. And what I mean by identify the points is I want to see where my points are on the graph, because we're going to have to use rise over run. So I want to know exactly where my points are here. So obviously here they have them labeled for us. Here's a point. Here's a point. I want to identify my points. Okay. And the second step is we're going to make what I call a road map. Okay. Road map, hear me call it stair treads. Okay. So we're going to make a road map from point to point. From point to point. Okay. So basically our road map is when you follow a map on the road, you have to follow the roads. Okay. We can't just, take our car and drive to the woods. All right. So we're going to follow our map. Rise over run means I'm going to go up first and run. Okay. So I have here to here. If I was to find another point in this graph, I would follow the same thing. All right. Now my rise for this particular, for number 1 here, I went up from this point to here. How far did I go? Well, I went up 1 unit. Okay. Up, that's really bad right there. Up is positive. Okay. So think of up and down. Up is positive, down is negative. So if I go up 1 unit, my rise, so rise over run. So if I go up 1 unit, my rise is positive 1. Okay. And then my run, we go here to here. Okay. Well, that's the wrong color. My run is 1, 2, 3. Which direction did I run? Okay, that's what can be confusing. Think about a number line. if this right here was a number line, and I went left, okay? I went left 3 units. Left is negative. Got a number line, left of 0 is negative. So if I go left 3 units, it's negative 3. So my slope for number 1,
Isabella Lankey, you're leaving.
slope is 1 over negative 3. Now, I can write that differently, okay? I could also write it as, or negative 1 over 3. And you might be thinking, well, Mr. Reed, you didn't go left 1. You went right 1. Yeah. But what if I went from the opposite direction? Say I went from this point to this point. In this instance, I would go down 1, which is negative 1, and right 3, which is positive 3, because it's to the right. So there's 2 different ways to write your slope when you have positives and negatives kind of mixed up, okay? So keep that in mind. There's no particular order in going from point to point. As long as you start with your rise and then you do your run, you're good, okay? So the reason we use slope is to find different points in the graph. So let's say that we'll go back to the first slope, 1 and negative 3, okay? I can keep finding points. I know I go up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3. Or I can go in the opposite direction. I can go down 1 over 3. And we can find different points along this graph, okay? So all you're doing is you identify your points, make our roadmap, or you see why I call it stair tread sometimes, because there's like stairs, you go 1 stair, 2 stairs, and you go up your stairs, okay? So it's just different ways of you to think about it, all right? So let's look at the next one over here, number 2, or 4, whatever number, it's our second example. So if I make my roadmap from point to point, okay, there's my map. We're going to start with our rise, okay, because we got to go up and down first. So my rise, from here to this point here, I'm going 1, 2, 3. So I'm going up 3 units. Up is positive, okay? So that's a positive 3 over, and I need to run now from here to here. So I'm going 1, 2. I went right 2 units, and right is positive, so positive 2, which gives me a slope of just 3 over 2. So if I was to find another point, I would go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, another point. Or I can go the opposite direction, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There would be another point. So you have 3 over 2, or it could be negative 3 over negative 2. Okay? Now, understanding that this can be written 2 different ways can be confusing. All right? And it goes back to fractions, and it goes back to your positive and negative rules with multiplication and division. So think about 3 over 2. A positive divided by a positive is a positive. Negative 3 over negative 2, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Therefore, both of these slopes would be exactly the same, okay? Even though these are both negative and negative. So you can go either direction on your line when you make your stair steps, as long as you start with your rise and your run, but understand that you can go the opposite direction if you need to find different points, okay? It's really important to understand that.